From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning. Obviously, a lot of baseball today as Oxford was selected as one of the 16 regional host sites. Also found out who is headed this way this weekend: Illinois, Clemson, and Jacksonville State. So we'll discuss that, the bracket, the just kind of implications moving forward, kind of whatever, throughout the week here on the show that's brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. You know about the Blue Sky. You know about the lunch specials that are $4.99, two sides bread, 32-ounce drinks, the ribs, the daiquiris now that it is definitely heated up outside, and the good gas prices courtesy of the Speed Pass Plus app, the mobile rewards program, and more. So that's Highway 6 West with the Oxford Exxon, again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call that number, ask for Corey Clark, tell Corey what new Ford you're looking for, and he'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's that simple. It's right to the bottom line. There's no hassle. There's no haggle. You just get a great quote that either is a baseline for you moving forward and or gets you into a Ford vehicle pretty quick, because you're going to get your best deal at Clark Ford. You're going to get it quickly, efficiently. You get great service after the sale. Corey wants to be your truck guy. He wants to be your car guy, and he'll prove it to you. All you have to do is call that number and get started, 662-257-1900. Tell Corey near the end of your deal that you heard about Clark Ford on the podcast, and you'll save $500.
So Ole Miss, the number 12 national seed in the NCAA tournament. Hoover certainly did matter. The Rebels were on the outside looking in. Heading into the week, they put a good week together. They win 4 games. They ended Missouri's NCAA tournament chances, beating them on Tuesday, and then got all the way to Sunday when Vanderbilt's lack of 2 extra games and a potent offense took over, walking the Rebels off in the final inning. And we talked to some Ole Miss players and coaches yesterday, and it's really this strange hour for them because they have the big lead, they lose to Vanderbilt, they probably think getting on the bus that's not going to be enough, that Texas A&M is going to swipe that final regional host spot. They found out about 20, 30 minutes later that they, in fact, did get it. Credit to the committee for doing that, because metrics-wise, Ole Miss was better than A&M in pretty much every category except overall RPI. The Rebels' number 22 RPI is the highest an SEC team has been as a host since Kentucky in 2006. But other numbers were good. Ole Miss had the 4th most Quadrant 1 wins in the country. They had a big-time record against the top 25, and they were 4-0 against Texas A&M. So I do think the committee got that one right. Had A&M hosted, they would have been the first ever SEC team to ever host with only 17 total SEC wins. So I think looking back, that was probably a pretty critical number. And in saying that, I do not think that the 12 is necessarily indicative of how close Ole Miss was or was not to host. I don't know, really, I know what he said. I don't really care what Ray Tanner said. I certainly believe that things were manipulated from a super regional matchup standpoint.
Yeah, you know more about that than me. I'll simply say that if you're an Ole Miss fan, you have to be thrilled with the draw that you got, considering some of the non-league losses, considering where you were going into the tournament, to walk out of that tournament with the path that you have to Omaha. It's not easy, but there really is no such thing as an easy path. It's as good a path as you could have possibly hoped for. That's really it. I mean, you have to be thrilled with where you got placed.
Yeah, it's a deal where I know everybody's talking about, it's the hardest regional when you look at all the RPIs. Well, 4 seeds are so all over the place that they screw that up. Ole Miss has a pretty good 4 in Jacksonville State. They've won 12 in a row. They've won 16 in the last 17. But it's that deal where when you're completely fresh, you've had a week off or close to a week off, if you can't beat the 4, you weren't winning the regional anyway. So I really don't care about the 4 seed unless there's, a Noah Song from Navy or somebody where it's a top MLB draft pick where you go, oh my, now you gotta navigate that a little bit. Garrett Farmer for Jacksonville State's very good, but he's not that kind of guy. So, Ole Miss got a good draw in it as of you look at Illinois and Clemson. They are neither one of them in the top 25 of the RPI. Clemson was a very middling ACC program. Illinois was good, but they're in the Big Ten. The Big Ten's not a power conference for the most part. So looking at RPI, just the 2 and the 3 seed, Ole Miss, the 8th toughest regional, and when you are when you're in the situation Ole Miss was in, you got to be thrilled. And if you get to the next level, and even if it goes scratch and you got to go on the road, it's an Arkansas team that you're really, really familiar with, that you have beaten 3 of 5 times this season. You're completely comfortable in Fayetteville, and we're not going to spend a ton of time on that this week just because it's kind of irrelevant till next week happens. But, if anybody, I told this to you yesterday, Neil, if anybody's kind of upset about that, it's probably Arkansas, because kind of like State does to Ole Miss has really been a thorn in the Razorback side for the better part of a decade.
Yeah, I'm sure Arkansas would rather be paired up against one of the Big 12 schools. Have one of them come into Fayetteville, not a team that is comfortable there. They just played there earlier this spring, took 2 out of 3 there when, frankly, Ole Miss wasn't playing all that well. Just split with them in Hoover. I mean, look, if it gets to that, and we're not there yet, but if it gets to that, if it's an Ole Miss-Arkansas super regional, it's still anybody's regional. I mean, Arkansas could easily beat Ole Miss just in the same way Ole Miss could easily win 2 in Fayetteville. But no one's going to be intimidated of each other. They're very familiar with each other. Ole Miss won't be intimidated to play at Baum. They've played there. All of those, a lot of, frankly, the advantages that Arkansas would normally have in a super regional sort of go by the wayside when it's Ole Miss. So, it's got to get to that place first. But if it does, and you're Ole Miss, considering where they were when they left Knoxville, it's just as good a draw as they could have possibly hoped for. And I'm not going to be the guy that defends the NCAA, but I get why you don't want to create a scenario where there's 6 or 7 SEC teams in Omaha. And I know what people say, well, if those are the best teams, I get it. But if you're ESPN and you're wanting ratings, and if you're the NCAA and you're still doing the grow the sport thing, having every team from the Southeastern Conference is not how you do that.
I don't like it from the standpoint of they went to this seeding thing 2 years ago. I was much more comfortable with it when there was no seeding from 9 to 16 and you just started placing people. You know what I mean? It looks more awkward now that you're actually seeding it. Because of the 8, there are 5 intra-conference super regionals if it went by chalk. Not just SEC, all the way across. I mean, that's the thing. It's the SEC is being focused on here simply because there's so many SEC teams that are national seeds. They're 4 of the 8. But, I mean, North Carolina, Georgia Tech is a potential super regional matchup. Georgia Tech getting a number 3 national seed is ludicrous. But they're matched up with Carolina in a super regional. UCLA and Oregon State, the only 2 Pac-12 hosts, are matched up against one another in the super regional between a 1 and a 16. That's probably a little low for Oregon State. UCLA certainly deserved the 1. It was them or Vanderbilt. But, I don't know. I thought everybody focuses on what the committee chair says on a number of different levels. And Ray Tanner, it's in his final year of that. I think it's a 4-year term. And you have to remember, he's defending the committee, not necessarily what he personally thinks. And I think that's sometimes a hard thing because he had some answers prepared. A lot of stuff falls flat. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. The best teams are going to win the tournament. You know what I mean? Like the final teams in are not a consequence of the tournament typically. But Ole Miss could face TCU. I don't think they're going to, but TCU is in Arkansas's regional. They're the 3 seed, and there's no reason they should be in this tournament. They had a 59 RPI. They had a losing record in the Big 12. It went against every metric. But at the end of the day, they said SEC, power conferences, no matter what, they kind of got the nod over a lot of those mid-majors and smaller conferences when you look at the overall bracket. So just a couple thoughts there. My head's kind of spinning trying to look at the whole bracket. But, it helped Arkansas, but TCU should not be in this thing, and I did think they went a little overboard on the conference-by-conference matchups. So
they probably did. They probably manipulated it, and I'm not defending the manipulation. I'm just saying I understand. There's more to putting that bracket out than, hey, let's get this precisely right. That's probably ESPN, their influence, and frankly, when they invest the way they invest in it, you're going to have some influence.
Looking at it, the easiest regional is probably Vanderbilt, which hard to argue necessarily, but Indiana State, McNeese State, and Ohio State certainly not something that's probably scaring the Commodores this morning on West End. They do get matched up with West Virginia in the Super Regional. If West Virginia comes out of that thing with a really good arm, I would be very interested in a Vanderbilt-West Virginia Super Regional. But I'll tell you, Texas A&M sitting as that 2 seed in Morgantown is very scary for the Mountaineers.
Yeah, if I'm them, I'm furious. I mean, you're going to get – look, the teams that make the tournament are good teams. You make the tournament for a reason. But A&M's got the pitching to go into a place like Morgantown and come out of it with ease.
Yeah, you're going to get Doxakis or Lacey on day 2. One or the other. However they decide to do it.
Yeah,
So,
and if they're on, you're not getting much.
Yeah, now that they've got to beat Duke. Duke's a decent team, whatever. But Missouri was left out. The SEC got 10 of the 11 it hoped for. Florida gets in with a 13-17 record strictly because their RPI was 27. That was a little bit of a shock, but they weren't even one of the last 4 in. I saw they were easily in. And then Tennessee also pulls a 2 seed despite their conference record for most of the season. They are headed to Chapel Hill. They are in North Carolina. Auburn is at Georgia Tech. Just kind of scrolling through. Southern Miss getting sent to Baton Rouge. If you want a fun regional, it might be Baton Rouge this weekend. LSU gets the joke of Stony Brook back in town. Stony Brook that won that regional a few years ago when they advanced to the College World Series. I guess the Super Regional, in Baton Rouge when they advanced to the College World Series. And then Arizona State just knocks the crap out of the baseball. They're not an overly good team. They don't pitch it, but they can really hit, led by Spencer Torkelson, and they could give LSU some trouble. I wouldn't be surprised to see Arizona State push LSU a little bit in Baton Rouge. That is matched up with the Georgia Regional, which is Florida Atlantic. Florida State getting in simply to give Mike Martin a Lifetime Achievement Award. He had never missed the postseason, and just being real, they probably didn't deserve it, but they weren't going to take that record away from him on his last year before retirement. So Florida State, the 3 seed in Athens this week. Mississippi State gets a Miami team that's pretty good as their 2, and they get a Central Michigan team that can really hit as their 3. They should come out of it, but that's not an easy draw for the Bulldogs. Frankly, I think their draw was more complicated than Ole Miss's. And then you get the Mike Bianco coaching tree special part of the bracket. Louisville and East Carolina potentially matched up in a super regional. The 7 versus the 10. Louisville's got Indiana, Illinois State, and Illinois Chicago. And then East Carolina pulls a pretty good 2 in North Carolina State. And then they're joined by Campbell and Quinnipiac. So that is that one. The 8-9, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. Florida is in Lubbock. We were laughing. We were seeing the Florida beat writers or whomever was traveling trying to figure out just how exactly they were going to get to Lubbock this week. I don't think the folks in Gainesville were real sure how to go about that.
I don't even know how to go about that.
I think they were thinking about flying into all these different places, and you have to drive over. And yeah, it's a mess. I don't know, but anyway, Ole Miss 7 o'clock, Illinois and Clemson at 3 o'clock. We'll obviously break down all the teams. The Jacksonville State portion of that is up on the site right now at rebelgrove.com, and I listened to their media op yesterday. They're trying to take some motivations from Tennessee Tech that obviously won the Oxford Regional last season. They are in the OVC just like Jacksonville, now 2 completely different teams in makeup and everything else. But Jacksonville State has gone 2-4 against SEC teams this year. They obviously are very familiar with Tennessee Tech, and that's sort of their whatever coming in this weekend. And then we'll get to Clemson and Illinois as the week goes on. I know that if Illinois wins, Ole Miss will see I hate to say average because he's good, but a kind of a nondescript right-hander on Saturday, a kid named Tyler Weber that's fine. Probably high 80s, doesn't strike a lot of people out, doesn't really walk anybody, and throws with his right arm, which Ole Miss would have to be pretty excited about. So that's sort of the early look at that, but nonetheless, it's Ole Miss, Clemson, Illinois, Jacksonville State this weekend.
Bottom line is this: it's a regional. Ole Miss should win.
Yeah, it's fair.
I mean, that's the bottom line. It's a regional. Ole Miss should win. And if they'll play the way that they played in Birmingham, they'll win it. It's what's interesting to me is I listened to Mike Bianco's speech to his players following the Vanderbilt loss. And he told them exactly what I think most people on message boards and stuff want to hear. You got to play this way. And to me, that meant kind of loose and hard and aggressive and all of those things. They were loose all week. They didn't play super tight, especially as the week went on. And they played a lot of close games, and they found ways to win them. And I suspect it's going to be a similar path if they're going to go far. But he basically told them that if you'll play the same way that you played here, you got a lot of baseball left. He's right. It's a shame that Ole Miss can't find the Hoover Regional and play it, because I think they'd come out of it pretty well most years.
Just put the bid in at Regents Park or Hoover Met at this point.
I mean, whatever it is about that venue, and I have a lot of working theories, most of which I can't really repeat because I would anger so many people. But I don't think it's a coincidence that they play the way that they play there, and then kind of revert back to another style when they get back home.
But it's not even really revert back, because they're very good on big regular season weekends in Oxford over the last decade. They're great on Grove Bowl weekends, double-decker weekends, graduation weekends, taking the state series this year out of the equation.
Yeah.
I mean, great. Like 5-1 wins the losses.
Yeah.
But it's just this switch. And that's the question. How do you bring it back? What's the difference? What is the psyche? What's the deal? Because they're going to get into the same situation. And maybe they roll through it just like they have, all these other years. But it's why this whole thing is so complicated. Because, yes, in 2016, they played tight late in games against Utah and Tulane, and they lost 2 one-run games. They played like crap because of, no offense to him, I mean, I like the guy, but starting pitching in game 1 of the regional final last year against Tennessee Tech. And then they got very tight late in the game against Tennessee Tech in the other game when they actually faced elimination. I think in a lot of ways it's almost more just elimination games than anything else, because, I mean, you look at their past history in regionals, not super regionals at home, but regionals at home, they swept through 5, 6, 7, 9, and 14. I mean, they went on a really good run of, they did not lose regionals. They were just losing super regionals. So it's where I completely understand it, and I do think it's a real tangible thing. At the same time, it's not some just textbook definition thing. It moves around. It's not, they're not robots. It's not the same team every year. There's something weird they've got to get over, but what that weird thing is not always sitting in the same place.
And I think they're probably fine. I thought that they came out of that tournament in Hoover. I know they didn't win the tournament, but I thought they came out of it with a lot to build on. They'd won some close games. They had worked some good pitchers out of games. Karachi was really good. He looked like he had really regained some confidence just from a couple of outings over there.
I thought it was huge for him. I thought him putting back-to-back outings together like that maybe was the story of the tournament to get him back into some kind of form.
Etheridge was good. Nikhazy was terrific. Roth had a good outing. And I didn't see every game, so I might be missing something. But what I did see were some guys that probably come out of this with some real confidence. The kid with the beard, the middle reliever Austin Miller, he pitched exceptionally well against Vanderbilt in some high leverage moments. And I think when you play Vanderbilt the way that Ole Miss played them, you've got to walk away with that with some real confidence, because that team is just stacked. They're really good. And they know they can win. They should win the regional. I mean, quite frankly, if you look at it on paper, it looks like game 3 of a super regional against Arkansas where the winner goes to Omaha. That's what it looks like on paper. And all they have to do is just kind of be themselves and go do it and see what happens. I mean, I'm being honest. That's what it looks like.
They really want to manipulate. They could have just moved Ole Miss down one spot and sent them to Starkville next weekend.
I'm surprised they didn't, frankly. That's what I told you earlier in the day. I expected them to be paired with State.
Yeah.
Because that would have been cuter than Ole Miss Arkansas.
Because State's probably a little low, and Ole Miss is probably a touch high. So that's what I found funny about that. It would have been almost easier to do that if you put them in their real spots. But yeah, it'd been great for TV. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
15,000 people.
Yeah, and they'll still have those crowds, but you now run the risk of having two Mississippi teams in Omaha. Not that that's the end of the world, but it's probably not what ESPN wants.
I think ESPN just wants names. They don't want Stony Brook. They don't want Creighton. They don't want Cincinnati. They don't want, whomever. They just want names.
Oh, they want traditional Power 5 names. I said this to you yesterday. I'll say it out loud. It'll piss a few people off, but it's the truth. It's like the Ole Miss Vanderbilt game. It was entertaining. I watched a good bit of it because the Cubs-Reds was a blowout that day. The Reds just knocked the Cubs all over Wrigley. And so I flipped pretty quick. That game started at 2. It ended at 6-something, if I recall. A 4+ hour game of college baseball. You need names. Otherwise, people are going to keep flipping the channel. My friend in Dubuque is going to keep flipping the channel if it's not named teams. He doesn't want to watch Coastal Carolina. Nothing against them. He wants to watch named teams. He needs to see uniforms that he recognizes. So, that's where that's where if you told me that it's being manipulated a little bit to make sure that they get a Pac-12 team in, to make sure that they get a Big 12 team or whatever in, knowing they're going to get 3 or 4 SEC teams, I buy it. And from a TV standpoint, I understand it. I'm not saying it's the right way to do it, but I get it. I understand the logic.
Yeah. Continue this conversation in 1 second. First, tell you about Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. Underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. You're getting local underwriting and understands your market. A leader in condo financing in Oxford and the float down option, so you can lock in the current rate. But if rates go down before you close, you just get the lower one. 662-234-2704 or JLOWE@communitymtg.com.
This weekend, we've been telling you that you can get Blue Deltas with trunk shows and golf tournaments and things of that nature, and you absolutely can. For example, Blue Delta Jeans is going to be in Tampa on Thursday. If you want a fitting, get in touch with them via direct message on Instagram or Twitter at Blue Delta Jeans, or send them an email at info@bluedeltajeans.com. And if you're coming into town this weekend, the store on the square is going to be open on it's going to be open on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 10 until 6. If you want to make an appointment, you can. If you want to drop in, you can. It's going to be closed on Sunday, but if you want an appointment on Sunday, that can be arranged. You just have to arrange it ahead of time. Again, email info, it's INFO, @bluedeltajeans.com to schedule a fitting. And again, a reminder, if you're not coming up for the regional and you're not in Tampa and you want them to come to you, whether that's in New York, or Chicago, or Jackson, or Birmingham, or Dallas, or wherever, get in touch with them, info@bluedeltajeans.com. You can set up a trunk show in your city. So lots of different ways for you to get into a pair of Blue Delta jeans. The podcast also brought to you by 7 South Tailgating. It's owned and operated by husband and wife duo Kyle and Jordan Thornton, both Ole Miss alums, Oxford locals. Kyle's a former Ole Miss baseball player. Jordan, a former Ole Miss football staff member. What started as a way to pay for college has become the greatest tailgating service provider at Ole Miss. The team at 7 South are Rebels through and through. They take pride in the Grove and the impact their service has on protecting, directing, preserving, and enriching the Ole Miss game day tailgating tradition. So give them a call at 662-321-1682 or visit 7southtailgating.com. We're going to get to the crap take of the day in a little while. It was brought to you by our great friend Darren Ravel, who's a complete moron. It is brought to you by Scooper's Pet Waste Removal, LLC. Everyone loves their pets, but no one loves stepping in their pet's stuff, if you will. And tracking that stuff into your house is, as you can imagine, a nightmare. Scoopers will go into your backyard, apartment complex, or condominium and pick up what no one really wants to pick up. For $10 of cleaning, Scoopers will clean up your yard. They'll do it on your schedule, whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, or a one-time service. No contracts are required, and you can cancel at any time. If you have multiple dogs, it's just $2 for each additional dog. So if you own a home, a condo, or an apartment complex in Oxford, and you'd like to deal with a lot less crap, call Scoopers 662-506-2754 or send them an email at scoopers.oxfordpetwaste@gmail.com. Podcast also brought to you by Oxford University Bank. OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB offers its customers the absolute best cash checking account. It's called Kasasa, and with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000 and refund ATM fees nationwide. To learn more about OUB, go to liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. And we're brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry is a big part of Savannah Square. It's a new 9-acre development, 7/10 of a mile from the Oxford downtown square, conveniently located east of North Lamar, just a short stroll from the Midtown Shopping Center. Savannah Square will initially consist of 32 standalone detached structures ranging in size from about 1,100 to 2,400 square feet. You can check out the model home at 215 Williams Street, see all of the wonderful layouts, the impeccable finishes that you can choose from. All you have to do is get in touch with Harry. Go check out SavannahSquareOxford.com and then give Harry Alexander with Remax Legacy Realty a call or a text, 662-801-5621.
So, announced officially yesterday, but it's been known for a while, Keith Carter named interim athletics director at Ole Miss as Ross Bjork left, I guess, last Wednesday night. I feel like every day is running together a little bit. Pretty sure it was Wednesday night for Texas A&M. Look, Keith, the logical choice that made all the sense in the world. He'll do just fine in that role. And as we've been talking about, they're not naming another athletic director full-time until the chancellor is named. I think that we talked about that a little bit on Friday. Maybe it wasn't actually official because that came out in the release, but we knew it either way. So it's going to be months. It's going to be a little while. There's going to be maybe some decisions to be made even. This is as much as an interim period can be when a lot of the interim period is in the summer when nothing is going on. This has a chance to at least be kind of interesting, though.
Yeah. Look, this is not about Keith necessarily. I think for Keith to have any shot at the permanent job, and I don't even know whether he wants the permanent job. I assume that he would like to have it because of a lot of reasons. But for him to get it, I think football has to go really well where morale shifts. He needs things that are completely out of his control to happen. Like, he needs Ole Miss to win a regional and go to Omaha. He needs the football team to open the season 4-1. He obviously can't control those things, and if those things don't happen, it's not his fault. But he needs morale to change a good bit so that money comes in, people are happy, attendance is up, things of that nature.
Yeah, no, I mean, that all completely makes sense. I agree with you. It's more, he was the right choice because, frankly, he's liked and trusted and respected inside the Ole Miss fan base. Ole Miss just needed somebody they can be comfortable with right now. And from an interim standpoint, Keith fits all those bills. They've known him a long time as a player and in professional roles as well. And, you know, yeah, it's not even about the permanent thing per se. It's just about restoring some normalcy because while I think Ross got pegged with a lot of things that were out of his control, there was almost a little Mike Bianco element to it a little bit. And now Mike obviously has gained a lot of favor back in the last week, the way he got them to play in Hoover, and they're hosting a regional, and it's calm for the moment. We'll see how the week goes. But Ross had kind of got to that point where he lost a lot of public trust. And whether it's a coach or an administrator or anybody, once that happens, the whys and hows are kind of irrelevant. I think that it would have been, and I've got a little insight on this from a lot of donors and a lot of boosters and different people. There was just a spot where I don't think that anything was ever going to get back to complete normalcy under Ross. Right, wrong, and different. And because of that, I think that Keith is a really good bridge for whatever is coming next.
Yeah, I can buy that. I certainly don't know as many boosters and such as you do, but I've heard the same thing from a lot of them. They simply were not going to give Bjork a pass on things. And if we talked about this, if football had gone badly, Ross was going to be blamed for the Matt Luke hire. Not to get into all the politics of that, but he was. Whether that's fair or not doesn't really matter. And then Keith made sense as a choice because I'm not going to skip the elephant in the room. I think Michael Thompson gets beat up on a lot, and he shouldn't because I think he does a really good job. But there's a lot of people that blame Michael for things, and they weren't going to let that go either. And I mean, there are some. I have absolutely no insight on this whatsoever, none. There are some boosters out there who think Ross will ultimately take Michael with him to College Station. I have no idea one way or the other if that's true. I have not spoken to Michael. I have no idea. But no one thinks Keith Carter's leaving to go with Ross to Texas A&M. So Keith makes sense. Keith is a guy that, I would assume that if he didn't get the permanent job, he could go back into the job that he had previously. If Keith wants to be an AD at Ole Miss, in my opinion, he needs to take this, use it as a launching pad to get another AD job elsewhere and then be able to come back with AD experience. I think that would be more palatable for more people, depending on what happens. But I get this question. I get it a lot, and no one believes this answer, even though the university has said this. I don't think there is a list of candidates. I'm sure you've gotten this because I've gotten it. Where's the AD hot board? There is not one. You couldn't put one together right now. There's not one. They're going to name a chancellor first.
Period.
I mean, it would be.
I mean, we all know the names of people that want the job. Okay, but that doesn't mean anything.
That doesn't mean that they're legitimate candidates. I couldn't name you a true candidate right now because there's not one. Because let's be real here. And I can't think of the guy's name, Robbins at Arizona.
Bobby Robbins.
If he's the chancellor, I'm guessing that the list of potential athletics director candidates is completely different than it would be if, say, Chip Pickering got the job. I'm not only guessing that, I'm absolutely stating that. It would be a completely different list. And again, that's not me advocating one way or the other. I have no opinion, no preference, no care at all. Couldn't care less. Just telling you that the list would be different. And so there's no way to know what's going to happen.
What do you think? We just kind of talked about mood of fan base in general, just from an off-season, summer, even going into football a little bit. You know, what Kermit was able to do sort of gave everything a little bit of a salve, if you will, going into baseball. How big is this next week or two just for overall fan base psyche heading into the fall and kind of the off season, if you will, before the new calendar year from an athletic standpoint hits?
Oh, hell, they got to win the regional.
It's all or nothing off that one weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if
you win the regional and you lose in Fayetteville, you go, all right,
sure.
All right, it's cool, whatever.
Sure. I mean, look, again, if they get to Fayetteville, anybody who goes into that super regional going, this is all or nothing, damn it. No, you're insane. You can go to Fayetteville and win. You can go to Fayetteville and lose. I mean, people talk about Ole Miss last year. They were a pop-up from being the national champ. I mean, they have a little purpose to their season as well. You know, I mean, there's more than one team involved in this, but they need to win a regional. They don't need to see another team. They don't need to see Clemson celebrating on Ole Miss's field on Monday night. That we know what happens after that. And then the people that are calling for Bianco's head, there's no one to chop it off. There's not going to be change. They're going to be frustrated. And then you go into a football season where there's a lot of angst out there, about the upcoming season, and that's evidenced by the tickets.
Kind of a weird note. Ole Miss and Arkansas could play 8 times this season, and none of them in Oxford.
Wow, that is crazy. Yeah, 6 in
2.
Fayetteville and 2 in Hoover. Yeah.
Yeah. They know each other. Mike kind of laughed about that yesterday. He goes, well, if nothing else, I've got plenty of scouting reports.
Yeah, there wouldn't be a hell of a lot of advanced work.
No, you just go play. Fine.
I mean, everybody knows each other.
Mike and Van Horn have coached against each other, give or take, 70 times.
Probably a ton of respect there. There's probably not a whole hell of a lot of preparation to be done. You know Fayetteville. I mean, you know the stadium. You've played there a bunch. You know their personnel. They know yours.
Line them up and play it.
Line them up and play. It'd be a fun series to watch. Would that be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or a Saturday, Sunday?
I still have not been able to finalize that for sure. Not sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be fun. Be a fun series. Got it. And for Ole Miss, if the season ends in Fayetteville or Omaha, it's a successful season. Bottom line, you got to win the regional.
How was graduation? How'd you hold up?
Oh, I was fine.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I'm all right. I mean, she pulled out some photo albums and stuff, and we started down that path. And I said, no, I'm not doing this all day. And so I didn't, and I was fine. And I got irritated. I wasn't the only one. I've talked to other people, and I wrote about this in 10 Thoughts, which is sponsored by Harry Alexander. It's up on rebelgrove.com. It's part of the Rivals Network. You should subscribe. The people that so they open the ceremony by saying, hey, hold your applause until the end. There's 200 and something kids graduating. They're going to read a bunch of names. Look, it's a high school graduation. If you don't graduate high school, that's the news. When you start out, I'm not saying it's not an achievement, but it's not an achievement. Come on. I mean, everybody passes high school. It's a rite of passage. It's an emotional moment for a lot of parents because it's signaling that your child is about to take the next step. But it is not a cause for an air horn celebration.
You've used that term. You're literal in that people had air horns.
Yes, they announced before the ceremony, before they named the first kid. They do it in alphabetical order, like everybody else, from the first A to the last Z.
Yeah, sure.
Don't do outbursts, because what happens is the principal's up there reading these names, and Oxford is a diverse place. There might be a John Smith or two, but there are also some complicated names to read. And he's trying to get it right. And it's in Tad Smith, which is not the greatest audio
acoustical venue.
It's not. It's really not. I almost sent a text to Andy Kennedy going, man, this place was worse than I thought it was. But you know that they ask you not to do that, and yet every time a kid gets announced, not every time, because most of the people were respectful of that, but they would announce a kid, and you'd hear all this hooping and hollering and yelling and screaming and acting like morons, frankly. And then he'd start reading the next name, and they're still yelling. And so the kid who's, there's 200 and something moments there, right? I mean, everybody's kind of getting their moment. And everybody's there to see their kid graduate. Some kids kind of get their moment ruined by the screaming. I mean, and here's my only knock on OHS on the whole deal. And I get things are a little squirrely in Oxford right now from a police, race relations, all of that. I get it. Don't say that you're going to kick people out if you're not going to kick people out. Because when the people start coming down the aisle to prepare for their kid's announcement with air horns and signs and stuff, you know it's coming. When they do it, dismiss them. I don't get it. And for the people that say, "Oh, just back off a little," no, it's don't tell me there are rules and then there aren't those rules aren't enforced.
It feels like this has gotten worse and worse as years go on. I remember it to maybe a little extent, but not to the excessive extent that we're currently in.
Well, and it's one of those deals that because of political correctness, you have to be super careful how you talk about these things because everybody wants to label you, but I don't know. It's frustrating. No big deal. I mean, I'm over it. No big deal. I mean, it didn't ruin a night or anything, but I get bugged by people say, you know this about me. You've worked with me for a long time now. I cannot stand before every football game in the press box. They announce, we'd like to remind you this is a working press box, blah, blah, blah.
In
blah,
accordance
blah.
with the National Football Writers Association of America.
Violators. And I'm like, no, they're not. You're not going to do it. You know you're not going to do it. So why say we're going to kick people out if you're not going to kick people out? You want to send a message? The next time that somebody's in the press box going, "Roll Tide," or the guy down there from the Clarksdale Gazette who's decked out in Ole Miss gear going, "Hot Tide," kick him out. It's working press box. You're out. No cheerleading. Kick them out. That'll send. If you want to send the message, that sends the message. When the first kid's parents or family or whoever hoops and hollers and acts like idiots, make a scene throwing them out of the arena. Make them leave. That'll send a message.
It wouldn't take but one or two.
The other people would say, "Well, do I really want to do this?" And I know why they didn't do it. They didn't do it because they would get labeled. They would be accused of. They'd be accused. So they didn't do it, and now's probably not the time for the Oxford Police Department to take on another battle, so to speak. But it was obnoxious, and frankly, it sort of diminished the ceremony. I mean, no one will say that out loud. I will. It was embarrassing. I mean, it really was. It's kind of, and it happened. I guess people say it happens everywhere. I just don't understand it. I can't imagine being that inconsiderate, but that's just me.
There is, I think it's linked in your 10 Thoughts. There is actually a podcast interview with Ross and A&M, if anyone cares. I have not currently listened, but I am sporadically kind of getting some messages about it, so apparently some people are listening, best I can tell.
I put it in there. I figured there would be some people that would be interested.
Have you listened?
I have not. I have not had a chance.
Okay. Will you? Do you care?
Yeah, I'm interested, sure. Look, you and I both feel the same way about this. We know Ross is more than an athletics director. I like Ross. I hope he does well. I think he will do well. You get attacked?
Well, I mean, I love him. I'm going to tell you about him in a minute, but Mastercuts is outside, and there's not much I can do.
Yeah.
They are currently taking things out of my flower beds, and I mean, yeah, it is what it is.
The dog thinks that they're coming to kill it.
It thinks that we are under siege, under attack at the moment. That yes, the aliens are coming, if you will. Mastercuts wears these lime green kind of neon fluorescent shirts, and I think my dog thinks it's an alien. So
yeah, that's understandable. Understandable.
It's calmer than I'm anticipating, but I knew it was coming. My office windows are open, and I saw like the first pass with the big zero-turn mower things that came through, and I went, hell, here we go. All right, I'm just waiting on something to click for Cujo to get off his bed in there. So here we.
Did you see the kind of the big news in college sports this morning?
What?
R.J. Hampton, one of the top high school basketball players in the country.
Yeah.
He was down to Memphis and Duke, and he is going to go play a year in New Zealand.
That's not the right decision for every kid, but I understand it as a decision. I mean, the rule is that you cannot enter the NBA yet. The rule is not that you have to go to college.
Yeah, and it's his saying, "Hey, I'm going to go." This is 3 players now in about 3 years. Terrence Ferguson, who now plays for the Thunder. Brian Bowen, who got involved in the Louisville situation with the prostitutes and all of that. And now R.J. Hampton going to New Zealand. It's a solid league. You're going to play grown man basketball. You're going to get paid. And I think what you're going to see with Hampton is that he's got a shoe deal lined up.
Well, I hope he did.
Yeah, so he's going to get paid over the table instead of under the table and not have to battle all this crap. Now, do I think this is going to become a mass exodus? I don't. Do I think you're going to see this more often? I absolutely do. Until the NBA figures it out. Because R.J. Hampton is a kid that would be drafted early in the draft this year because the NBA will take a guy like him based on potential, and he has plenty.
It's similar, not exactly the same, but I mean, the Carter Stewart kid that committed to Mississippi State and had a decent JUCO year, but didn't blow up and stay at that same level he was last year. He's signed like this long-term deal overseas now just to guarantee some money, millions of dollars. Just kind of almost split the difference a little bit and said, no, I'm just going to – it might not be the high end, but I'm going to split – I'm going to get mine. And then when this time period ends, we'll see if there's that – basically it gives him an opportunity to make more on a first contract. And if he's good enough, an MLB team will then at that point give him the big second contract, if you will.
Yeah, because he'll be, when it's done, he'll be 24 years old or so.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Ish.
Yeah, so if he's betting on himself, but he's also taking out kind of an insurance policy.
He's made the right decisions at every point because that thing with the Braves was pretty weird, and JUCO was the right move at that moment, and then I found it unorthodox at first, but frankly, I think he made the right decision even now. I think it was the right call.
I do too. It probably was a very difficult call to say, hey, your 19-year-old kid's going to go to Japan. But it's a smaller globe now. It's probably easier to navigate. I'm sure that he's got a support system around him, and like I said, it makes a lot of sense. And if he is the player that he thinks he is, and a lot of other people think he is, it'll all work out for him. Because if you go do the college thing for 3 years and it doesn't quite work the way you anticipated it working, you're going to take a financial hit.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, we'll get to Ole Miss draft guys as the week moves on. Draft's still a few days away, and
when does the draft start, Chase?
It's next week, I believe.
Okay.
I think it's next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I might be off a week, but I'm pretty sure it's next week.
Okay.
Because remember, Rollison got drafted the night of the final game at Tennessee against Tennessee Tech.
Oh, that's exactly right. He was drafted
during the game.
Yeah, because he had to take the phone call from Colorado where they said, "Hey, if we take you here, will you take this?"
Right. So I think it was Monday night. So I think that they'll stay on the same schedule, and it's this coming Monday night as well. I'm pretty sure that's correct.
And we'll have that annual debate from people about can't Major League Baseball maneuver it, and the people in Major League Baseball say, we're really not concerned. And it just goes back and forth every year.
If both sides would just chill a little, we could have a better date. But both sides just get pissed off at one another and will not discuss it.
Well, they literally could move it one day.
Yes.
And settle it.
It could be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in between regionals and super regionals.
And the college people say wait till after Omaha, and the Major League people say, are you out of your freaking mind?
See, here's what I would do. I would do it the next week. I'd move it back 1 week. Okay?
Yeah.
And then I would put it to the end of the week, and I would do it in Omaha.
Oh, that would be tremendous.
I mean, what difference does it make? It might get on a 3-hour flight from anywhere.
Sure. No, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. No. So.
It would make Omaha more marketable.
Yeah.
The whole College World Series thing.
Podcast brought to you in part by G&M Pharmacy and Tyson Drugs. G&M right there on South Lamar and Oxford, deliver local in the Oxford area. And they offer the CBD oil I've been telling you about for a while now. People are taking advantage of it. Maybe you should check it out as well. As an all-natural product. Helps maintain overall health and regulate many conditions such as depression, anxiety, pain, insomnia, and more. Studies show 43% of CBD users stopped using traditional medications and now use cannabis instead. So to find out more from G&M or to just transfer your medications over, that's 662-236-2222.
Have they tested it on canines yet?
We could probably work on that if you don't know the truth. It might be. Actually, I think I had to take him to the vet a couple weeks ago, and he's the shelter dog that gets a little nervous. So they have to put him. They have to knock him fully asleep to do his annual checkup, and to get him to the vet to do the annual checkup, we have to kind of start giving him some anti-anxiety medicine about 24 hours before. I think I might have some in there. I might just shove the whole bottle down his throat at this point.
The podcast also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. Grenada Nissan, located just off Interstate 55 in Grenada. They've got a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles, great lease deals as well. Go in, test drive one today. Tell Gene and Sandy that you heard about Grenada Nissan on the podcast, and you'll get Rebel savings on top of the already great deals at Grenada Nissan. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. Podcast also brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. You know how this works by now. What you do is, if you're thinking about a trip, whether it's a trip with the boys to go play golf or whatever, whether it's a trip to the beach, it's a cruise, it's a vacation, an anniversary, a honeymoon, whatever the case may be, get in touch with John. He's part of so it's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows him to supply his clients with added values and unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. You give him some parameters, you give him a budget, he'll give you options. And no, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387 or jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. It's a podcast that's also brought to you by the Westin Jackson. You can restore serenity to your soul by visiting Soul Spa, and then you can gather at Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro right there in the Westin Jackson, sip on a creative craft cocktail, enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. All of Chef Caden's offerings are fantastic. It's just a number of reasons to stay at the Westin Jackson when you are in Jackson for business or personal travel. Podcast also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust, based in Madison, Mississippi, represents clients in more than 20 states, has advisors in 3 states. Founded in 1997, Pinnacle Trust provides detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. So regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, and put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan. Cookie-cutter financial planners put you in a box. Pinnacle Trust builds a box just for you. To learn more, go to pintrust.com. That's trust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fee. Warm weather is most definitely here. I have the sunburn to prove it. With it comes the inevitable debate of sock or no sock with your loafers. So save your feet and your shoes from making their own impression. Step into some spring in summer with no shows from Dead Soxy. You really need to experience the difference a quality sock makes. Go to deadsoxy.com, enter the code Rebel Grove at checkout. You get 30% off all orders, including sale items. These no-shows are the same quality you already love and enjoy with their traditional dress socks, but they come with the no-slip guarantee. So go to deadsoxy.com, check out the no-show collection, and remember to enter promo code Rebel Grove at checkout for 30% off all orders. Guests will join us this week on the Patterson and Earhart hotline. Patterson and Earhart, attorneys at law. They specialize in personal injury law and real estate law, but theirs is a general practice that can handle any of your legal needs. When you contact Patterson and Earhart, you speak to one of the partners in the firm, and that's who handles your case, not some paralegal at a faceless corporate firm. John Calvin Patterson and Wes Earhart are Ole Miss guys. They're local guys. When you call them, you're going to get one of them on the phone within the same day, guaranteed. 662-526-1992, or check out their site, pelaws.com. And remember, your initial consultation is free.
Podcast is brought to you by Master Cuts Lawn and Landscape. As mentioned, that's 662-607-7773. Go mastercuts.com. They'll annoy the crap out of your dog, too. They'll cut your yard, do all those things. They'll do your flower beds, put in hydrangeas, daylilies, and plenty more as needed. Again, 662-607-7773. Go mastercuts.com. And I have to look in the mirror a little bit. I walked in the other room while you were doing that, and I'd left the blinds open. So that was on me.
Oh, yeah. It's your fault.
That was kind of my fault a little bit.
The dog's just doing his job. I mean, you're being attacked.
Had a clear view, and yeah. Congratulations to Jacob Wagaspak, former Ole Miss reliever. Ole Miss didn't get all out of him that we kind of thought had a ton of talent, just couldn't really put it together at the college level. Signed as an undrafted free agent, left after his junior year with a year of eligibility remaining as a free agent, and come to find out, it paid off. He's made his debut with the Blue Jays. And he set the franchise record for most strikeouts as a reliever. He had in his MLB debut. He had 7 in his first appearance yesterday.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that the post-game meal tasted awfully good.
Whatever it was.
Yeah, it could have been dry Triscuits and rice cakes. And
Wagyu at that point.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
that had to feel awfully good.
Just the emotional of I'm here. Yeah. Minor leagues aren't fun. Minor leagues aren't sexy.
No, I think by the time you get to AAA, it's okay. But by then, you're so close you can taste it, and it's right there, and you can't quite get it. But before that, it's a
grind.
It's a grind for sure, and to get called up and walk into a Major League Baseball clubhouse and your jersey's hanging there, and it's got to be a surreal feeling. You know, I suspect it's a crazy feeling even for Kevin Biggio, who made his debut over the weekend with Toronto as well. But for a Jacob Wagaspak, I can't imagine what that feeling must be.
Yeah, I mean, again, his last season at Ole Miss was after 15, so it's been 4 years since he finished college.
Yeah.
Pretty quick. Moving okay.
That's pretty quick. That means they saw something and fixed whatever needed to be fixed, and start getting your minor league innings under your belt, and you move your way up, and then bang, there's an opportunity, and then, you take the mound. That's the part that I cannot imagine, when not only are you in a Major League Baseball uniform, but you're a reliever. The game's been going on for a little while, and you're
just kind of chilling.
Yeah, it's probably not a lot of chill at that point, because you know that the phone could ring and they could say, "Hey, get the new kid up," and away you go. I mean, you start throwing in a bullpen, you know that your Major League debut is just minutes away, perhaps, and there you are.
It's one of the funnier parts of the story. He's told it on the podcast. When Keith Kessinger was called up by the Reds, it was because Barry Larkin had been injured, and his dad drove him to the airport in Memphis, and he was flying to Cincinnati. And he goes, just take in today, chill. It's fine. They never play you on your first day up, so it's cool. Gets there, and he's in the starting lineup, and second inning, you're hitting off whomever it was you're hitting off of, and it's like, oh my God, like here we are.
Yeah.
Is it less pressure or more pressure? I think it's less when you're replacing Barry Larkin, because you're like, hey, I'm not him, so no matter what I do, they're like, hey, Barry will be back in a minute. Whoever this scrub is, it'll be all right.
Yeah, everybody that you ever talk to who's played in the majors, and you get the debut story, which is always, I could sit and talk debut stories forever.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that happens that mitigates the pressure or the enormity or just the moment, because for every one of those people, I mean, there's all these years of Little League and now travel ball, and you had to make a decision about going pro or going to college, and then you go to college or whatever you do, and then the minor league grind. And I mean, let's keep this real. If you're, for a lot of guys, you're on a bus driving all over a place that you would otherwise never go to, with a lot of people that you would otherwise never meet, many of whom at the beginning at least can't speak your language, and you can't speak theirs, and you're in cramped clubhouses, and you're not making jack for money, and you're hoping that the post-game spread is good because that's your meal, and and then you get to a big league deal, and it's just, I don't know how more guys don't kind of like almost get emotional in their first at bat, their first pitch, whatever the case may be. They control it because you have to. You have a job to do, but you see a lot of them after those debuts, and it's pretty emotional, and it shows you that they were holding back that emotion at the start. And I always love when they show the parents in the crowd and stuff. You can tell there's a lot of emotion there. It was not a kid. He's a guy who'd been in the minors for a while. Made his debut for Houston yesterday, and he had gotten the call a couple of weeks ago when the Astros were in Boston and said, "Get ready, we're bringing you up. So and so's going on the injured list." And then he got the call back that said, "Hey, never mind, he's not going on the injured list. Stay where you are." And so he made his debut yesterday for the Astros, and I think it was Garrett Cole that said, "Yeah, he sort of got dry humped in Boston." It's the best quote I saw. Oh man, it's funny. But I mean, can you imagine? I mean, you're right. I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, you're at AAA. You don't get to AAA unless you're a pretty good baseball player. You just don't get that far, and you're right there. I mean, you're literally just right there, but you're not there, and then you get the opportunity, and there it is. It's why
I mean, it's become kind of cliche, but the one call where it's like, oh my God,
yeah, I mean,
years, decades worth to this moment.
Yeah, no matter what happens from that point forward, you made the major leagues.
Yeah,
and if you made the major leagues, even if it's just to have a cup of coffee, you're really, really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's your favorite. I know you talk about this Carson all the time. It's your favorite kids' questions when they lean over and go, "Is he any good?" It's like,
yeah.
Well, yes, he's good.
Yeah. How good is he? He's the best player his high school has ever seen, and he's having a hard time staying up in the bigs. That tells you how good the guys who are really good are.
Yeah. So, your time period, not mine. This goes into the crap take of the day that is mentioned earlier. Bill Buckner passes away with form of dementia. I'm not sure exactly what it was called. Let me ask it this way, because I'm 35. I had not yet turned 3 when that happened in '86. He's a guy with almost 3,000 hits. Very distinguished major league career. Is it because of the franchise that it happened with? What is the reasoning why, if you ask 98% of people, even sports fans, they could tell you nothing about Bill Buckner other than that one play?
Well, it's a lot of things. I'm going to see if I can find. There's some stats that I want to read to you, but I've got to find them. I meant to have them earlier, and because of R.J. Hampton, I got kind of lost. He was as good of a hitter as their pure hitter as there ever was. Here's one. Here's a stat for you. On Sunday, the last full day of Bill Buckner's life, 16 major leaguers struck out at least 3 times. Okay?
Okay.
Bill Buckner played 22 seasons in the major leagues. Dodgers, Cubs, Red Sox, some others. Bill Buckner never struck out 3 times in one game.
In his entire career.
In his entire career. What I remember about Bill Buckner, I wrote about this in 10 Thoughts. So I'm 49. So I was 16 when the Red Sox-Mets World Series happened. And Bill Buckner, when I was a little boy, was my first favorite Cub. I've had a bunch of favorite Cubs. I don't know who my favorite Cub is now. I'm older now, so I don't know that I even have one. But Bill Buckner was my first favorite Cub. I liked their uniforms. He was their best player. And when they came on the Superstation, which if I recall correctly was either 81 or 82, when Rustin got – suddenly we could watch more than – when I was a kid – and baseball was king. Baseball was bigger than the NFL when I was in my single-digit years. You could watch the Saturday game of the week, and you could watch Monday Night Baseball with Howard Cosell. Those were the games that you could watch. and you saw a lot of Yankees, and you saw a lot of Dodgers. And we didn't have a local team per se. Probably the closest team to us was the Texas Rangers, and there was no way to watch them every day. And I liked the Cubs. I liked their uniforms. I liked the fact that they were Bears and all that stuff, and I just liked the Cubs, and Bill Buckner was their best player. And he made the All-Star team. He was often the only Cub that made the All-Star team, so I would get to watch the All-Star game, and Bill Buckner was the Cub that I saw. And he was with the Cubs from 77 to 84. And so when the Superstation came on, he was their best player. And I watched them. You could watch the Cubs during the day. You could watch the Braves at night. I watched both. I was like a lot of Southern kids. I loved Dale Murphy. But the Cubs resonated with me. I'd been to Atlanta. Chicago seemed like this far-off land, and Bill Buckner was my guy. But Bill Buckner, in 1980, he won the National League batting title. He hit .324. A year later, he made his only All-Star appearance. Made his big league debut at 19. Retired at the age of 40. We were just talking about how hard it is to make the bigs. Keith Kessinger, as you know, has talked about it. He didn't play in the bigs for long. Keith Kessinger is better than 99.9999999% of the people that you've ever seen play baseball. And he had a hard time staying in the bigs. He would admit that. Bill Buckner stayed in the bigs 21 years, yet his career is defined by one play that is always, to this day, taken out of context. If Bill Buckner fields that ball off of Mookie Wilson's bat and touches first base, the game just continues. The Red Sox don't win the World Series. They had already blown the lead. And then no one ever blames John McNamara, the Red Sox manager, for not doing what he had done all season, which was Buckner, who was playing on bad ankles. I don't know if you remember this. He was the first major leaguer to wear high tops on the field. He did it to protect his ankles. His ankles were bad. He basically iced his ankles every free moment that season. Had a tremendous September for them. Hit like .340 in the month of September for the Red Sox. But they would take him out, and they would put Dave Stapleton in as a defensive replacement at first base. And in that game, I think because McNamara wanted Buckner to be on the field when the Red Sox won the World Series, he didn't do it. And the Red Sox blew the 3-run lead that night in the ninth inning to the Mets in Game 6. There was a rain out the next day. So the Red Sox had an extra day to get over it. And they had a 3-0 lead in the 6th inning of Game 7. There was a lot of blame to go around. And frankly, of all of the people who deserved to be blamed, Bill Buckner was probably at the bottom of that list. Yet the media decided to make that ground ball the biggest part of that World Series. And it haunted him for the better part of the next 2 decades.
Yeah. 20 years.
It took the Red Sox winning the 2007 World Series, and they brought him out before the 2008 World Series. That first day at Fenway, the Tigers were in town, and they let him throw out the first pitch, and they did it right, and he got very emotional on the field and gave a kind of a I forgive the media press conference afterwards. But he was a broken guy for a long time. And then yesterday, when even the AP did it, Chase, the opening paragraph of his obituary was about the ground ball.
Just crazy.
But Darren Rovell was able to make it all about Darren Rovell, which
shocked.
Someone should take that tweet and bronze it and put it next to his stupid bronze.
His marathon shoe.
Yeah.
You never thought about doing that?
No.
Never thought about bronzing your ASICs?
Because running a marathon's not that big of an accomplishment. It's just not. It's not a big athletic accomplishment.
It's a big willpower personal accomplishment.
Yes, because you have to do
You have to be very dedicated.
You have to get in decent shape, and then you have to do 18 weeks of training, most of which is spent on your own running where the question in your mind keeps going through your mind, why the hell am I doing this? This is miserable. Why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to put that question out of your mind. That's like I've had people say, how could you run on a treadmill watching Breaking Bad? And it was just, well, because I had to run.
And
so
it passed